In Santa Cruz, there's really a lot of good rights and not a whole lot of good lefts. And, at that time I was mostly stand-up surfing, riding a surfboard. And since there are so many rights, I figured a kneeboard was a good thing to ride up here because you don't really have a front-side, backside angle. Well, when I first came up here, a lot of the guys that were kneeboarding were riding plywood boards. I kind of came from San Diego in the era of pretty thick, floaty, foamy boards, and some of the guys up here, particularly some of the better surfers up here, rode really small, thin, boards made out of plywood. And they'd put their boards in a bathtub of hot water and bend a little rocker in the nose, and then screw on some fairly crude fins, so they actually had fins on them. And but I remember, watching people at the lane and being really impressed with what they were riding, especially when they walked up the cliff and I saw what was under their arms. Some of the guys I remember being really good early kneeboarders. There was a guy named Bobby Dubois. He was a chef down at the Crow's Nest. Another guy was Dale Anderson. A pilot guy named Gordy McLaughlin. Another guy named Jack White is somebody that came to mind. So there was actually a pretty good population of kneeboarders, more than I had seen anywhere down south. I think part of the key to shaping a good board is riding them. A lot of the surfboard shapers that try and shape a kneeboard probably try and put a few too many surfboard concepts into them. Kneeboards need to have more going on in the front of the board, I think, is the major difference. When I was in San Diego, I started building kneeboards for a couple of my buddies down there, and I became interested in it. The fish design, which has been sort of classic for years and years. It's funny, I remember when I was building boards in San Diego, I actually shaped a board for Stevie List before he was a shaper. He was a mutual friend of ours, and Brian Kinley hooked us up together, and we did I remember I'd kind of forgotten about that, but in the course of one of our moves, when I started going through my old files, I found an order blank for Steve Liss. Wow, I don't know if I kept that or not, but it probably would be a good piece of memorabilia. I was actually building surfboards in San Diego under my name. I had John Mel Surfboards. My wife used to draw a little yin and yang thing on rice paper, and that was my logo. I got a job working for Gordon & Smith one summer, right when I first started shaping, and I was able to work there for a summer and, learn a lot of the tricks of the trades and manufacturing and all of that. We got married and moved to Hawaii, and I was building boards in the garage over there. My wife was selling Avon, so we were living a pretty subsistence survival thing, which was fine. We were happy. Get some brown rice and a little fish and some macadamia nuts and avocados, and you could get by. But when she became pregnant with Peter, we realized we had to kind of step up our game a little bit. So, when we decided we were going to come back and start a business, we decided on Santa Cruz. There weren't too many board builders at that time, and we just kind of started real small. We had a house, had a little retail section in the front, had a garage in the back so I could build boards, so it was kind of me and Kim just doing it. Yeah, absolutely I do. I mean, you always have this fantasy if you're in the surf industry, you're going to be surfing all the time. And guys that actually built boards would tell me, you're going to be working all the time. I didn't really realize that. So that was, a bit of an eye opener. But, I feel very gratified that I've been able to, make a living the shop's been in business for 53 years now, 4 years or so ago, I turned it over to my son and his wife, and they've been kind of running it successfully. And actually we have my grandson and my step-grandson are actually in there too. So it really has been a family thing. First place I met them was down in Opanaki at the Worlds down there. I think it was 1999. We had been in Fiji and we went on to New Zealand. That's kind of how we used to do our little getaways. And I had kind of heard that there was a kneeboarding thing down there, but I really hadn't gone down there with the intention of participating or anything. But we were in Opunake when it was happening, so I kind of met, Don, and I think Jack was down there, Kenny Stapleton, a lot of the Australian kneeboarders, and I realized it was really a fun bunch of folks. And that's kind of where I first got to know them. Kenny was actually running the organization at that time, and he was really pushing for something in the U.S. I had never really had a world championship in the U.S. and I don't know. I was skeptical that we'd be able to pull it off, but within a few years we actually did do that. They actually had the first few contests at Pleasure Point too before they started moving them to the lane. The thing that I remember was when people from Santa Cruz saw world-class kneeboarders, it really kind of upped the reputation of kneeboarders amongst the surf crowd. And the Australians are wonderful, super friendly people. I remember the first world contest there, we had a bunch of them staying at the house here, and it was it was a very memorable occasion. I remember it was actually super cold period when they had the contest, and we have a little pond out here. The pond had actually frozen over. One of the few times I can ever remember that actually happening. But it was great because the Aussies, we had a lot of them staying there. We had a relatively small refrigerator, so they could take their beer and put it out on the ice on the top of the pond, keep it cool. I remember another funny story that when they first came here, we were expecting them to show up on Friday. I think the contest started on Saturday, but they actually arrived a day early. And, we had a local brewery that was the host place that was going to do it. And they said, well, let's go down to the brewery and check the place out. Australians are renowned for tippling a few. So they went down there, and apparently they drank the place dry. I mean, in anticipation of the contest, they were planning to have all the beers show up on Friday, but they're being there on Thursday. And they said, wow, we've never drunk a pub dry. What's with you guys? Luckily, they stocked up enough so that there was not that problem when the contest actually happened. I remember a good friend of ours, Greg Warnick, that's also about the same age. He's a little bit younger than I am, but when they had the older division, they used to call them ROB, really old bastards. And for a long time, the oldest division was called Really Old Bastards. I remember I had my trophy in the shop, and people would go, well, who's Rob? I had to explain that to him. But Greg actually lobbied to where I think they finally changed the name to the Immortals. So we got a little bit more respectful name to go with our age category. Well, I don't know. We always had these fantasies that the population would grow. I mean, I keep proselytizing it to my older friends that complain about not being able to stand up anymore, or the get up is the hardest thing as we get older. Once we're up, we kind of know what we're doing, but the get up is hard. So I say, hey, all you got to do is get up to your knees. You're still in the water. You're still having fun. So probably that will be the growing population of kneeboarding. I mean, I know as a kid, I never thought I'd be surfing. I'm 75 now. I'm not in the water anywhere near as much as I used to, but I still love surfing as much as I ever did.
I got started around 8th grade. My dad was a kneeboarder, and I had started bodyboarding probably in the 5th grade with him, following him out, and he rode this Challenger fish, twin fin. And I remember just finally just like, hey, let me try that. And then having a couple really fun sessions on the fish, just going super fast and just kind of doing like little roller coaster type motions. From there, just kind of kept making the transition from bodyboarding less to kneeboarding more. And I think by senior year, I was predominantly just kneeboarding because I pretty much outgrew my bodyboards too. I was happy to compete. I just like competition in general, I think, especially something in the water. And I had no idea about the NSSA days and stuff like that with having kneeboarding contests. So I was just excited to have a surfing experience and something I had passion for as well, outside of bodyboarding. 2007, I think it was, the world titles at Steamer Lane. That was a totally different ball game, and it was finally fun to get to, like, you know, test your stuff and bigger surf and waves of consequence. But that was fun. But yeah, I think I won a lot then, and then college happened. So. Surfing up in Humboldt was just pretty eye-opening as far as how much like the elements really need to line up for you to even be able to surf up there. The first year I surfed the most, and we had like kind of created our own faux little surf club, me and a few buddies, and in the end it was me and one other guy only, and he's one of my best friends actually. He's from Seaside, Oregon. Him and I just kind of kept surfing throughout the 5 years I was up there. And he pushed me into some of the biggest, still today, the biggest waves I've gone into. And, you know, they were pushing the triple overhead range and nobody else out. Whiteout fog moving in. I remember a guy got bit by a shark the next morning after we were out there at the same spot in the evening, and literally kind of had that sixth sense, kind of like, there feels like there's something under us, we should probably go in, like now. And then of course he would get the first wave of his set, and I sat out there for like 20 minutes plus, just like shaking in my booties. So surfing up north just was good for mental training. Surfing has always brought me really great happiness, and kind of almost something I need to do weekly too. It's always a good release to just get out there and get wet. And just like drawing and painting for me too is a way to focus and refocus, and also just like let off steam. Sometimes you gotta do a little bit of both too, because there's been times where I'm like looking out in the water and it has a certain look, and there's like you know, sunsets, you're like, damn, I want to try and capture that lighting or those color combos and put it down on some paper, you know. Painting and drawing, I like to do a lot of creatures, so just the ocean, like there's all the fish and different animals that I like to try and recreate. It was always wind and sea, and then I remember I'd always look over at Big Rocks. I was like, there's less guys over there, you know, and my dad and I and Joe Coyne, actually, and Sam Coyne, we all started kind of like going over there. On some days, it'd be really crowded here, and we'd be like, that looks like a good left. Yeah, eventually I just got it on some better days, and Horseshoes especially had some like magic sessions out there. 3 hour long, come in, eat a burrito, and go back out for another 2 or 3 hours. So yeah, and surfing those waves, there's just a lot more power and variety in the sense of what you could do with the lip and potential barrel sections and speed. I was riding Blast kneeboards, and then I'm riding Sween Dog SD kneeboards now, and they both seem to really like that raw, natural power, which you can't always get with the beach break, other than Blacks. And Blacks was another, it was pretty much Blacks or the Reefs for me. I thought my competition, they're a little bit bigger guys, and I think they would have, you know, excelled more in waves that had a little bit more power, as they were literally mushy, and I feel like I got the only 2 decent waves that came in that whole heat, because there was also super inconsistent. So it feels good, but also I want to like, I'm ready for the next time we compete, so we can hopefully get like some better, you know, challenging, trying waves, and yeah. I mean, yes, but I feel like there's also now, like, there's even younger guys that are popping out of the woodworks, which is awesome. I remember meeting Owen in New Zealand, and he's a young Aussie kid that's ripping super hard. Like, I think definitely harder than I was at his age. And I think there's also, with the, you know, Facebook and Instagram platforms, there's a lot of more surf history and knowledge popping out, which I love, because that's gonna just open up the doors for kids and people in general to break the mold of, if I'm gonna ride a wave, I gotta stand up and I've gotta be on this equipment or that. Like the alt surfing, alternative, like wave riding is really taking a push, which I think is just gonna open the door for more people from all over to try it out. So I don't feel any pressure. I just kind of want to like show up and show people this is one style, or this is what you can do. Like if I can land in air in front of a bunch of kids, I'm pretty sure they're going to be blown away, you know. So I would rather just like keep pushing my own limits on what I can do, along with hopefully becoming a little bit more consistent with landing tricks and landing different maneuvers, but also like keep power surfing and barrel riding and all the fun stuff, you know.
In 2000, after stand-up surfing for about 12 years, I got turf toe. I hurt my foot. My dad was a kneeboarder, and instead of taking a break from surfing, taking the winter off, I just asked my dad if I could use one of his kneeboards. He said yes, and I've only stand-up surfed once since then, and that was also in 2000. So I guess it was a little bit of luck, and my dad had a bunch of kneeboards lying around, and I got into it. When I was young, started surfing at 11, and I immediately became my dad's surf buddy, and every time he would surf, he would bring me, so it'd be before school, after school, on the weekends, and then surf trips growing up to Costa Rica, Panama, South Pacific, and ultimately South Africa. Lately, I've been riding a few Blast kneeboards, Buddy McRae's boards. Have a 5.8 Stuff Vector that I've ridden the heck out of over the past 7 years. Have a 6.0 rounded pin. They're all quads, and my latest board is this board right here that I've been riding quite a bit. I think he calls it his summer squash, but a quad as well. It's just really fun turning as hard as I can. So when I see a section coming towards me, I just, it's all about timing, so I try to get the timing right and turn as hard as I can. And I often tell myself during surf sessions, if I could get one good turn in, that makes the session worth it. Number one, my wife allows me to do it, which is great, and just staying in shape so that I can perform as a Marine for our physical fitness tests really translates well into staying in shape for surfing, and it was just so much fun. It's hard for me not to do it. Dealing with heavy situations, whether it's as a Marine or in the water, consequences have been at times more serious as a Marine, but it definitely gives me some perspective, and it's fun. While it may be dangerous, surfing's just so much fun. while there are risks, they're worth it. Number one, my dad. Like I said, I was his surf buddy growing up, and it really fostered my love for surfing, spending time with him. Also, Bob Welsh down in Ocean Beach, I spent a lot of time surfing with. First time I went to the North Shore in 2003, I was a student in Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. There's a North Shore kneeboard gathering going on. Showed up kind of out of the blue. Had some blast kneeboards, but I really didn't know anybody. And Bob put his arm around me and said, "Hey, come here, young guy. Let's get some waves." No, I did not. My dad was an anomaly growing up. Be the only kneeboarder that I ever surfed with, although we surfed quite a bit. And then our trip to South Africa, we were surfing around Cape Town, and we paddled out at one spot, and my brother and I were the only stand-up surfers out. There were about 15 kneeboarders, so it was quite a shock. And then coming to Southern California, the crew at Black's and down in San Diego. It's been great exposure, great fun. I think my first one is where I did the best. I got third, but they've all been just so much fun. Even this, the last one, the first one I've done in a while. I think the surf can always be better, but it was just a great day at the beach, catching up with friends and spending time with my family.
I definitely remember distinctly when I knew I was going to be kneeboarding for the rest of my life, and that was a day at Black's Beach. I'd probably only been surfing there for a year, and I took off on this wave and just got this really green barrel, completely covered, came out, and he was there right on the shoulder, my dad, watching. He saw it, and just coming out of that, and then some other guy on the shoulder telling me how good a ride that was, and just that feeling, it was pretty incredible. So I just keep chasing that. Well, definitely Gavin. He surfs like no one else, I think. He's able to just do such explosive, spontaneous maneuvers. It's just absolutely crazy. But there's also people like Shane Simpson, who's been doing a lot more innovative, progressive type kneeboarding. But there's also a lot of influences growing up here in California that were a big influence on me. Mainly Jack Beresford, always seeing him down at Black's every morning and seeing the incredible rides he's doing. Bill Lerner, and a lot of the fixtures there down at Black's Beach has been a big influence on me for sure. So right now I'm sponsored by SD Kneeboards. I'm shaped by Sweendog and designed by Joe Taylor. The standard board that I'm riding right now is a 5.6 by 23 inch quad rounded pin. It has a really, really deep concave. It rides like a twin fin, so it's really good off the top. Has a really good turning radius, it's good speed. And I also have a step down. It's basically the same thing except for 2 inches shorter. I have a couple other boards that I've been trying, but those two are the main ones. I've set a lot of goals for myself coming up. I think Lately I've been doing a little bit less surfing goals and more personal goals. But I think right now some of my goals is to do really well at the contest coming up in Portugal. Obviously I want to do one better than I did last World Titles. But I know that's going to be really difficult. Competition's always really tough. But I'm also trying to surf different types of boards, different types of waves, and just try and mix it up more. It's definitely been an adventure for sure, and that's always a good thing. It's been definitely challenging at some points, but I definitely relish the challenge, and so far it's been exciting most of the time. But definitely some sleepless nights and trying to get some surf sessions in when I can. But trying to get that balance in has been a little bit tough, but I'm slowly figuring it out. KSUSA has been an incredible organization that's really helped me grow as a kneeboarder, as a surfer, and it's just brought together this great community of Nilos that has really been great and has kind of impacted a lot more of my life the more I think about it, because kneeboarding really gives me a lot of purpose in life, and it's allowed me to travel a lot of places, meet new people, and just the whole experience that KSUSA has really facilitated has been really great.
So I love that job. It's fantastic. It's a great job for surfing because I go to work for a few days, I work hard, and then I'm off. And if you work your schedule properly and you have a supportive family and wife, you can work as little as 12 days a month, and that's a lot of surfing. Well, the official answer is we don't fly in thunderstorms, but it's a different kind of thing. Yeah, flying sometimes can get pretty intense. There's we never do anything unsafe, but some things take a lot of concentration and a lot of work with your hands and eyes. And it's in that way it's very similar to surfing. I mean, in surfing, I guess sometimes we do stuff that I don't know if it's that unsafe, but we just love that. That's part of what we're built for that. That's what we do. I can think of a couple days. The big day back in 2005, it would have been December 20, 2005. That's the one. There's an old video of the big cleanup set at Black's, and Dave Weinbaum and I were off on the side of that wave when it came through, and it's one of the biggest waves I think that I've ever seen while I've been out in the water. And I won't throw a number on it, but after it cleaned house on most of the other people out there, and there were broken boards and leashes everywhere, we kind of took stock and said, we better paddle over and make sure everybody's still alive. I think Jack and I both agree that Bill Lerner was a great influence, not just for surfing, but just to see yes, you can go to school, you can hold down a job, and you can surf hardcore. And those are a couple things that Bill has done really well. and that have been an influence on us. So definitely Bill Lerner. Horseshoe, without a doubt. Couple other places over there that will not be named. But yeah, it's basically blacks and horseshoe. And a lot of times when I just get wet, I just go to Scripps or you know, somewhere close by like that just to get out there. But I definitely have dual passions between blacks and horseshoe. Horseshoe, in many ways, is kind of the ultimate wave. It's a challenging spot with a lot of different places you can sit, and the wave bends and turns, and there's different directions coming in, and it can take a lot of years to kind of get your system down there, and sometimes it still doesn't work, and you know, you can look for years for that wave out at Horseshoe, and anybody could say this at any spot really. And I've been lucky a couple times to get that wave there, so I'm coming back for more. Yeah, I'm riding same as always, round tail, 4-fin. You know, I ride boards that are longer, I guess, than a lot of guys. 6.0 is kind of my standard length, and the boards are you know, pretty stiff and drivey is my preference. And then as a lot of guys have seen, I prefer riding the 4-fins Twinser style. Smaller fins up front, big fins in back, and the fins are very small. People would agree. And I'm pretty picky about the fins. For the back fins, I like the 80/20 foil FCS fins, so that's kind of my thing. I think in the past, you know, way back in the day when we were competing, yeah, it was definitely, and you know, my parents kind of egged us on a little bit too, and it was a lot of fun, but it was serious. You know, we each wanted to surf better than the other. But it was a good thing. I mean, it pushed our surfing, right? And that's not uncommon for brothers, and it's been a good thing. And these days, you know, we're just trying to get a couple waves here and there. And you know, of course, you still want to surf your best in front of your brother. It came from you know, growing up in a pretty competitive lineup. I mean, back in the day, as most of the older guys will tell you, you had to work hard for your waves. That was how it was. And the harder you paddled and the harder you worked, that was how you were going to get the best waves. And that's how it's always been. I've kind of warmed up to it over the years, and it's the realization that it's really not about the competition. I see, you know, the guys surfing a lot, training, if you want to call it that, but it's not really training, it's just surfing. Surfing hard, leading up to the competitions, and then when you're there, just hanging out with the guys and seeing that, yeah, this is not really who gets first place or second place, although, you know, you want to do good, right? That's still there. But really it's about seeing everybody kind of come together and have a good time. I don't know. I think there's still a couple bodyboards around the house. You know, maybe as we all get older, that might be coming back. I've heard that's a thing in your 80s.
So when I first started surfing the pier, it would probably have been 1977-ish. And Freddie P. Peterson, who was a huge influence on kneeboarding for me. And I didn't see him actually surfing, but his reputation had flowed into the water, and everyone talked about him. And so when I started surfing the pier area, they were kind of accepting of me, I would say, because, you know, back then kneeboarding probably wasn't, you know, very hugely accepted. You know, you're a half man, you're a cripple, all that. So, but because of Freddie's influence, I was able to paddle out at the pier and not be accepted, I would say, as much as just, you know, you're tolerated and no one's telling you to get out of the water, which back then, you know, everyone, if you didn't belong, you got kicked out pretty easy. So yeah, his influence was huge, and his photos that were taken on Southside, no hands, and, you know, that long bottom turn, everyone tried to emulate that all the time. So that's what we always tried to do. You can paddle out on a 6-foot day, and on a west swell, on a south swell, there are two completely different waves, and you can paddle out when it's 10 to 12 feet, and it's south swell, north swell, west swell. It's all different and has just so many different faces. Even when it's tiny, if you know where to sit, you can get some fun waves. So it's always different. That's what I would say about it, and that's what I like about it. I always look to the Australians for guidance, I guess the word would be. You know, because I went to Australia back when I was 17, 18, and because of PT, and he always talked about the kneeboarders back then, specifically Neil and Parks. So he talked about them, and I was like, oh, I gotta go there. So I went there and joined a contest there in 1981, I believe, Duramba Pro, and yeah, I just got exposed to like some crazy grid kneeboarders, and met Terry Day and all those guys. So it was a good experience for me to see all that, and what they were doing and what their boards were like was so different than the twin fins I was riding, like the Carl Hayward twin fin, and they were riding these tri-fins with the fins way up, and I was just like, what the heck's going on here? And they were ripping, so yeah. Coming back to California, you know, I didn't compete for a long time until the KSUSA came along, which, you know, Jack and Sprocky and all them, and Don Harris, and kind of brought everyone together. First with the gatherings, which was fun. Kind of, even though it was not competitive, it was competitive. You paddle out and everyone's trying to outdo each other. So it was always fun to experience that. And then getting into the actual contests, going up to Santa Cruz, the early contests at Santa Cruz, there were some special times up there, and meeting John Mell and John Mance and Caveman and all those guys. It was just a great time. Even all the South Africans and English guys that came over, and Duncan and all them. It was a good time meeting everybody and just seeing how friendly everyone was, and the camaraderie everyone had together, and getting to surf the lane with hardly anybody out. So yeah, it was great times. Yeah, it meant a lot to me personally. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, I guess, in the big scheme of things, but for me, it just kind of capped something for me. I won, I think, a 1980 contest, NSSA contest back then when I was in high school, at the end of my high school years. And then coming back to Huntington and surfing it for so many years, and then winning it at Huntington was special for me personally, and my son was there and helping me get through the heats, and, you know, it was good. It was special for me. I create three-dimensional objects. Sculptures is what I do. Why do I like to do it? I think it's a long projection of how I got there, but through the many years that I've been doing it, went to school to do it, finally found a little niche for myself that I feel comfortable with, and helps me deal with ideas that I have in my head that I want to try and get out and express. That's what I like to do, and artists in general like to do. They want to try and express what you're feeling, so I try and do that visually. So it's different than doing the other artwork that I do, and that's why I like to do it, because it kind of takes away, it's not thinking, but I'm slowed down with that. You're really slow and you're meticulous with it, which is not my nature, and you have to really slow yourself down and concentrate on making this and feel as one with the pot and building it and then firing it and then making it, glazing it and then firing it again. So yeah, it really is a long process, and I kind of like that sometimes. I am riding a Blast Quad Summer Squash 510. That's basically my go-to board. I love that board. Kind of does, you can take it out on 2 foot and you can take it out on 6 to 8 feet, and it still performs well for me. I think it opens up a lot of opportunities with speed, because with speed you can brush it off, or you can make it go faster, and you can alter your trajectory on a wave with speed. Because if you don't have speed and you're just kind of bogging it, which I've done many times, and you can't really, you want to go up there, but you can't go up there because you don't have the speed to go up there. But when you have the speed, you can just kind of like paint your own picture of what you want to try and do. You don't make it all the time, but it's worth a try. Always got to try. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm a kneeboarder. They don't do that for kneeboarders. Although Greg Schumann is on there, so you never know, but I doubt it very much.
It was fun. I was only on it for a year. PT and Ian were coaches. Tommy Curran and the McNulty brothers. And it was really cool. It was funny because I'm a short guy and I was like taller than all of those guys. And it was really fun. It was great actually, being coached surfing. You never had that before. And they treated me and kneeboarder like the surfers. So I'd be in heats with surfers and I'd be winning heats when we were doing our practices. So that was pretty fun. It was a great opportunity. I think Jack Beresford gave me the name Mayor because I'm a friendly guy and I know everybody. And if you've been there for a while, you get to know people. The wave, I love the wave. The wave's always changing. Every season is a different personality to it. The place is a magnet. It always has more waves than anywhere. I mean, I live in Cardiff, with Cardiff Reef right in front, and Cardiff can be flat, and blacks can be head high, overhead even. So it's, it's always a few feet bigger. When it's big, it's kind of a hassle to paddle out, and you have to walk down the cliff, so that's a deterrent to a lot of people. It's a heavy wave. It can be heavy, and I like the challenge, and I like that it's a big, wide playing field. If you don't like somebody, you could just paddle down the beach to another peak. So it's a good challenge. It's a good workout. The Blacks Beach Health Spa. Outside corner at Uluwatu, and it was solid. It was, triple overhead plus, and it was just my friend Tim Lafort and I. We were surfing outside corner by ourselves, and the tide was kind of high, and I was just watching my friend Tim on this wave, thinking, oh my gosh, this is like a movie, and I got sucked over backwards over the falls on like a 25-foot wave, 25-foot face wave, and I lost my board, sprained my medial collateral knee, and then I was kind of sucked out. We're surfing outside the corner. I had to make the cave, so I had to, swim up the point and hang it on my friend Tim's board, and then I had to make the cave. And he went in and said, well, you're on your own. You better make it. So I put my head down and made sure I made the cave. So that was probably the heaviest situation I've ever been in. I am riding a Buddy McRae 5.7 round pin epoxy board in small waves, and it's super light and it flies. It's really fun. And my step up is a Buddy McRae Blast 5.7 F2K. It's my step up board. I ride that when it's a little bit bigger, and then I have a 5.10 that I'll ride, and then a 6.0 that I ride rarely here, but I'll ride it in Hawaii or Tavarua. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 1995, I think, 96. And that changes your life. And you really realize, life is to live. Do you want to do it? Do you want to be part of it, or you just want to sit back and whine about it? And I'd rather just be in it. I don't want to miss anything. So I want to be part of it. And, I've had Meniere's disease, which is like vertigo. I've had a bunch of stuff, but it just kind of gets me back, and it actually really makes you appreciate the now, the here and now, and your friends that you have now. So, yeah, all that stuff kind of humbles you. It's humbling. We're all human. We're not going to be here that long, so enjoy it while you can, and hopefully leave a good mark. It's nice helping people. It's nice being, of service to people. People come in pain, and they can walk out feeling a lot better. You get cause and effect. Sometimes, I think with medical doctors, you don't always get that. So it's nice being able to help people and teach people maybe a more of a holistic approach, or guide them on the way to take care of themselves, empower them, so they take their own health in their own hands and live healthier and happier. I met Don in Bali, and both of us just graduated college, and we both did our South Pacific Australia trips. He met David Parks, I met David Parks. He kind of hooked up with David. I kind of hooked up with Albert Whiteman, and we were palling around Australia. And then I was in Bali for 2 months with Albert and Damien Coase, and then I met Don at Uluwatu, and this was 1985. So we kind of hit it right off, and he was riding one of David's boards with the fins way up, and I just couldn't even wrap my head around it because I was riding more classic fins backboards. And yeah, we met back then, and we've been friends ever since. And then when he came up with KSUSA, I was his right on board, and it gave me a chance to reconnect with Don and all the guys that we used to be in contests with 15 years, 20 years before. It's nice having a carrot in front of you. Events coming up, you got to train, you got to go. It's it's motivation for me to get up and off my butt and go run down the hill at Blacks and surf waves, whether it's good or bad, because I know Jack and Chris and all the boys are going to be in it. So it's good. It's like having the young dogs. I'm the old dog with the young pups, and it kind of keeps me young. And I really, really appreciate all the things you guys have done. I don't have as much time to donate, so I'd rather donate my other resources that I have to continue, because you guys have really given me another life in kneeboarding. I was, before KSUSA, I wasn't kneeboarding was good. I was just doing regular surfing. And once KSUSA got up and going, I really got back on my kneeboard, even when I normally wouldn't do it. And it really gave me a second life. I was really, really appreciative of it, because I just love it so much.